What's up, everyone? We've got another awesome episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Show. As usual, bringing some extra special guests. Who have we got today?
Obviously, I've got myself, Dan, Knight from the Sanctum Squad, holding it down as per usual. And we've got one of my personal favourite creators. I'm sure that a lot of you know him and love him. Please give a warm welcome to a very good friend of ours, Neshi.
Woo! Howdy, y'all. This is Neshi. Hope everyone's doing all good.
So, Neshi, thanks so much for coming on the show. It's a real treat to have you here. First of all, like when I told people that you were coming on the show, and if they had any questions for you that they want me to bring up, there was one thing that really came up like a lot, more than any other question that I got, and I'm sure you probably already know what it is, but I'm just gonna get it out of the water. What was it that made you pick Crystal Beast?
Oh man. You know,
Like, is there a bit of lore to it, or?
See, here's the thing: is like I don't even know completely myself, and I'm sure a lot of you have that sometimes with your own pet decks, where it's like I just like it, and I can't tell you why. But my earliest earliest memory of Crystal Beast was, I mean, just as a kid watching GX. You know, I saw Jesse summoning the Crystal Beast, and it's like, oh, these guys are pretty cool. I remember the Mammoth. And then they all formed to make Rainbow Dragon. I'm like, that's cool. I like the idea of, you know, you have your beasts, you know, those are your monsters, but when all else fails, you just have your boss monster, Rainbow Dragon, come down. And it's ironic that that's like what drew me to Crystal Beast initially, because now I don't summon Rainbow Dragon nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, when years later in high school, I'm sure everyone like had a phase of going back into Yu-Gi-Oh in high school, that kind of thing. I never played it as a kid, but you know, I watched this show. But in high school, my buddy got us all into Yu-Gi-Oh. He's like, you got to check this out, and he's like, you got to build a deck. Here's a stack of cards. Then through all of his bulk cards where we're making decks, I saw the Crystal Beast. And I was like, I remember these guys. This is cool. And so I threw a lot of them in my deck, and then I ended up when I was first buying a deck. I got the Jesse Anderson deck building pack for my birthday. It was like my 14th birthday, and that was when that was when it all started. I only played Crystal Beast from then on. Of course, I dabbled with some of my friends' decks. You know, if it's we'd all get together in a free for all, like a circle, and we each take our own turns, and it'd be every man for themselves kind of thing. It'd be a way to do like a 4-way duel or a 5-way duel, that kind of thing. But
Like a cube format almost.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a battle royale.
yeah, exactly. But I'd sometimes borrow my buddy's decks, but other than that, the only deck I've really owned is Crystal Beast for a long time.
That's great, man. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, there's just something that's so cool about that to me personally. Like, just the diligence to stick with just one deck.
Yeah.
But the thing that I like about your content, Neshi, because obviously Crystal Beast is an anime archetype, and with a lot of anime archetypes, there is obviously the stereotype of, you know, it's for a more casual player base. But like watching some of your content, it's very clear that you're a very serious player. Like when you talk about things like siding patterns and going to ratios and things like that, it's very clear that you're you're a good player. Essentially, is what I'm trying to say here. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
no problem at all, man. So I guess like another question I had personally for you is like, how hard is it to like translate knowledge, I guess, from what would be typically going towards like a meta deck to something that is, you know, an off meta deck, or like
Yeah.
a deck that, I mean, and this may come across disrespectful, and I don't mean it to, but up until recently is a deck that not a lot of people would have considered picking up.
Oh, 100% not.
Yeah.
No, well, it was hard. I'll tell you that much. 2019 was the biggest year for me as a developing player. That was when, you know, I found Facebook groups for the first time, and I joined the Crystal Beast one, and I joined a couple other ones, and I saw like, wow, there's communities where you can actually ask for help on your deck and like get and, you know, connect with people about your deck and talk about things and DM people about certain tech choices. And that was what really got me interested, was the people aspect of it, where I can really connect with someone over this deck that I've never met before. And you know, even right now I'm talking with you guys, I've never met you guys previously, but it's Yu-Gi-Oh that's bringing us together right now, right? But that year was a time where I really outreach to people that are better than me and just asked them for help, and talked about my deck with them. And obviously a lot of them would say like, your deck is trash, but here's this. This could help you out. And one of the guys at my locals, I didn't go to locals very much until that year.
Sure.
Noah Bagelman, I don't know if you know him. I'm a super big Noah Bagelman fan. He's helped innovate a lot of meta decks in the past, like Lunalight especially.
Yeah, it's a
But
name I'm familiar with.
yeah, and Sky Striker True Draco, that was a thing because of him. But he is like the most notable player at our locals, and he's super nice. He was a guy who sat down with me and like was willing to do test hands and show me like correct sequencing. And without that kind of help from other people, I would never have gotten to the position that I'm at. But it was just a lot of research and a lot of no life listening to YouTube videos while I'm at work about Johnny Lee deck profiles and a lot of in-depth theory that kind of crafted me into the player that I am. But it was really hard translating that to Crystal Beast. I had to take a really serious look at the deck and all of the strengths and weaknesses of it. And believe me, there were a lot of weaknesses, and figure out a way to correctly play Crystal Beast in that meta game. And what ended up happening was I cut a lot of the Crystal Beast cards from my deck and basically used them as an engine. So it was at the time it was like 3 Rainbow Bridge and Crystal Bond, and I was like, Crystal Beasts are really good at putting monsters in the back row as continuous spells. What if and what if I played True Draco? I'll give that a shot because they attribute the continuous spells to some of themselves. But the other thing is, it's like, what's my win condition? And that was a thing that was really hard to figure out with Crystal Beast. So I was like, with True Draco, I have access to Metaltron, and all the decks in the format had no out to Metaltron. It was 2019, so it was Orcus, Sky Striker, Salamangreat, and Thunder Dragon. Sky Striker does nothing against an unaffected Metaltron.
Yeah.
And then Salamangreat, all of them were playing Borreload. They just Borreload crash into it. When Metaltron dies, he floats into a Crystal Wing. So it's like, well, I had a lot of people just scoop from that. Orcus has no out to it at the time until Boral Sword came out. A lot of the people at my locals couldn't afford Boral Sword, though, which was nice. Thunder Dragon... I don't remember if Thunder Dragon had an out to it either.
I think it's what's it? Their Metaltron is 33 in it, so they could use Dragon Matrix, but it's like even then it's a lot of investment. Dragon Matrix plus Titan.
They have to boost the Titan, don't they?
So much investment to even, and then like you said, now you got a fat ass Crystal Wing on the board, so
yeah, exactly, a Crystal Wing or an Exterio. But I digress. That was like a point where I had I really stepped up my game as a developing player, seeing like a win condition with my bad deck. And it really took a lot of dying to myself, though, and like dying to my own pride of like wanting to play Rainbow Dragon in my Crystal Beast deck, and I think that's something that a lot of rogue players have to deal with is, wanting to, you have to submit to the meta deck choices in order to give your deck the chance to compete. You can't play Magic Cylinder in your deck, that kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's actually a really good point as well, because I feel like that's definitely something like we've probably all struggled with it, where it's like, yeah, you really want to play that rogue deck and you're just so determined to like keep it pure and stuff, but to be honest, you come up against the meta, and if you don't have good cards in your deck, you're just gonna get clapped unless you're actually playing those.
Not the wave, is it? Like,
unfortunately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, like, obviously, there must have been like a turning point where you were like, okay, the best way to play Crystal Beast is as like a control strategy. Like with obviously the Crystal Conclave build, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe obviously like you brought it to the mainstream, but were you the inventor of that deck build?
Yeah, so it was, another godsend with me as a developing player and like being better at the game in general was Duelist Academy. I don't know if you guys know about Duelist Academy.
I'm familiar.
No, they're awesome. And They started, I think, at the beginning of 2020, but I was working with Ryan Levine because he is also a huge Crystal Beast fan. He loves Rainbow Dragon. He loves Jesse. But he was my coach for Duelist Academy because I saw what Duelist Academy had to offer, and I'm like, I gotta check this out. And so I wanted to, I signed up for their Patreon, and Ryan was my coach, and he and I were connecting about it. And I brought up the idea. I was like, what if we played Crystal Beast as a control deck? I really love Crystal Conclave. And what if we called it Conclave Control? That's like the perfect name for it. It's so catchy. And so he and I crafted a Conclave Control deck, and you can currently play it in Master Duel. It's not very good, but until the new Crystal cards come out, that's what we got. But yeah, I made that version because there was a little podcast I was listening to with Hack and Jesse Cotton, actually. And they were talking about how Salmon Great, you have to play around their different outs. Let me see. It's like a Schrodinger's cat kind of thing. If they have one set card, you have to play as if it's Rage or Roar.
Yeah.
And that turned me on to the idea of, control decks are actually really based. Yeah, I thought that combo decks were the way to go because it's like that's the only way you win, and then control decks are just helmet. But it turned me on to the idea of, helmet people don't all just play control. Control is actually pretty big brained.
Yeah.
I was like, that's kind of crazy. And I was like, I want to give Control Crystal Beast a look because Conclave is an amazing card, and I don't think Crystal Beast will work as a combo deck. And it turns out to this day that's still not the case. But that was kind of the genesis of Conclave Control. And then I translated it to Duel Links and actually had competitive success in Duel Links and multiple DLM and DLE tournaments, Duel Links Meta and Duel Links Entertainment tournaments with Conclave Control. But I wasn't the innovator in Duel Links for it. There was actually another guy before me who innovated Conclave Control in Duel Links. But he didn't call it that, and I was the first one to coin it. So I'm claiming that.
I don't blame you at all for that, man. That's really amazing. I had no idea you were part of Duelist Academy. That's awesome.
Oh no, I wasn't ever a part of it. I was just one of their students.
To say is like that you were one of their students.
Oh yeah, no, Duelist Academy is a huge help.
Yeah, definitely.
They're awesome.
Also, I was going to say as well, it's funny how you talk about like the helmet decks and stuff like that, because when obviously you look at like theory crafting and stuff like that, it's always very difficult to see like the different levels of deck building and such, and having that take definitely really helps as well, because I think there's a lot of skill to actually piloting decks that often have sort of cookie cutter lines of play, and playing around sort of specific interactions that the deck has is often it's a skill that not many people can pick up, and definitely having like that train of thought is very interesting, I think, and people can learn a lot from obviously picking up sort of those sort of helmet, sort of having those specific lines of play.
Yeah, definitely.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think obviously we've had the combo versus control conversation on the podcast quite a few times.
I'm sure.
I like the way that I like the way that you've approached it, though, Neshi, because like I think you've approached it in a bit of a different way than most of the people would. It's like, okay, I've looked at what this deck that I want to play can do in one avenue. Let me see what I can try and do with it in another avenue. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally love it when you can have a deck that can do, as it can go one of two ways. You can either play it like combo variant, you can play it with control variant. Like I think that's so cool. I mean, to be honest, like that's one of the things that kind of drew me to Crystal Beast generally, because I've been playing it for around the last 5 to 6 months, like kind of since the structure deck dropped, and like I've got to be honest, like it's a lot better than I gave it credit for. Like the deck is like legitimately like based, like it's so fun.
Let's go.
100%. Like I used to know Crystal Beast as the deck that like it did a lot of stuff, but nothing was happening. Like that was literally what I knew Crystal Beast before. But then after the support, it's a frustrating deck to come up against, because like things like I don't know if I'm wrong, but you guys can search like any field spell, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, Foolish
Yeah.
Burial Goods, cool combo.
Rip Mystic Mine.
It's so yeah, it was just so peak. Like little things like that is quite insane about the deck. And
I
yeah,
was
it's
gonna
quite
say as
impressive.
well, like the fact that I was playing Jake when he was finally building that deck, and I don't think I ever took a round off him because of the fact
Sheesh.
I was just like, what do these cards do?
Yeah.
Yeah, like shout out to Jake, man, because I remember like we were talking about that deck. It was one of the things that we started talking about when I first joined the channel. We were talking about the different ways to play Crystal Beast, and I remember when the structure decks came out, and he was like, "Oh, like I want to play some Crystal Beasts at the shop," and he was like, "I was like, oh, okay, cool," and like he drops this like deck full of like all E's and like just secret rares, is absolutely gorgeous looking deck, and I was like, God damn, like this deck is like pimped out. And then I looked at the list and I was like, oh, I can pick this up for like next to nothing as well. Like if I don't want a ball, like I just think it's such a good looking deck. Personally,
Oh, that's
and a lot,
half the appeal. Half
definitely,
the
and like a
appeal to
lot,
Crystal Beast is the max rarity.
of course, man. And a lot of people have picked it up as well. Shout out Jack from our local area who got 16th at the regionals we were at last weekend, a couple of weekends ago, depending on when this went up with Crystal Beast. So big up to you, bro. I was going to take it, but I'm nowhere near based enough to do that. I took Sword Soul instead.
I saw him around
it's what
about
it is.
like round 6 on that
Yeah.
regional, and then I saw him at top tables, and he said, "I'm like X1 with Crystal Beast." I looked at him at shock. I was like, "What is going on?"
To be fair though, like I imagine Neshi, like this is the kind of format where you're happy to be a Crystal Beast player, because obviously searching such broken cards like Necro Valley and Zombie World, and like to a lesser degree in this format Secret Village. But I feel like the fact that you can main Dimension Shifter as well, I feel like if there's ever going to be a tier 0 format where Crystal Beast is an option, it's going to be one like this. Like, would I be right in saying that? Or
Oh yeah. Oh, it's Crystal Beast definitely has a lot of great anti-meta tools, and I'm super thankful for that. With Necro Valley being a house shifter, although it's going to change. And Zombie World for Flu and Sword Soul sometimes, but then Secret Village is mostly for the Runic Sprite matchup actually, because that's our hardest matchup is Runic Sprite. Oh gosh, that matchup is awful. But the what's interesting is the shifters in main. I kind of really don't like shifter, but like you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
But when Photon Hypernova format comes out, I don't know if this is going to be a talking point. Maybe I should keep this until when we're talking about Photon Hypernova.
Oh no, bring it out now, bro. Bring it out now.
All right. So we're actually citing shifter, which I love, but then just maining 3 Foolish Burial Goods, just because Kashtira does not care about shifter at all, right?
yeah, that was I mean, I was talking about the deck actually earlier with someone else today, and I was saying like I hate like maining Shifter, but it feels like you kind of have to right now, because Foolish Burial Goods just feels so good, right?
Yes. Oh,
Like,
100%. Yeah, I
so,
can't wait to move Shifter to the side. But then we're also getting our own support with the Kashtirs. We're playing Paraisos, because we could search Paraisos, search Fenrir, and then search
Oh, yeah.
Risen Heart
Yeah,
if we
you
need
can.
to.
Oh,
I didn't
God.
even think of that. That's gosh.
That's nice.
Yeah, that's quite levels. Not gonna lie, that's
Kashtira
that's not
cards.
something I thought of. So now,
Oh, it's awesome.
And now Crystal Beast is gonna be full Kashtira combo. That's essentially what we discovered.
and I don't want to
Exactly.
leak the goo as well, because I know this is something I saw on the Crystal Beast group. But Crystal Beast can also search Lost World, and Lost World gives Kashtira a token. So
Stop.
Yes.
Gosh.
And then
So many
you can do Token Collector too if you really want to, but you have to go heavy on the dinos.
oh yeah, you're not really wanting to be doing that, I guess. But shout out to whoever it was who posted that in the Crystal Beast group. I take no credit for that whatsoever. Big up you. Go on, Fabs. Go
So
on.
I was gonna say then I'm gonna go on to it might be a Crystal Beast cast, it might not. But Neshi, what would you say? And I'll say this to the whole group as well. What is your favorite card artwork? What is your favorite card artwork?
I've got to give it to Rainbow Over Dragon. For some reason, that card is just amazing looking, but it's just not great. I wish Overdrive looked like that instead. You know what I mean? Overdrive looks awesome too. All of the Rainbow Dragons do, but my favorite card artwork has to go to Overdragon. I think it's something to do with the purple royal look. But then the covered eyes makes it look like it's a seraphim, like from the Bible. And if I could get into this too, but I think Crystal Beasts are very like a lot of the stuff you see a biblical theming with it. You know, I mean, you look at the first instance of a rainbow in recorded history, and that was in the Bible. And you know, I mean, it's all Julius Caesar based, like the ancient city rainbow ruins. That's based on the Colosseum. All the crystal beasts are the beasts that would be in the Colosseum with the bestiary. But that's where you know, Rome, that's where Jesus was crucified. And you see a lot more of the theming in the card names, like Crystal Blessing, Crystal Miracle, Bridge of Salvation, for crying out loud. Crystal
I didn't
Beacon.
even
no
twig that.
idea. Yeah, like genuinely, never in my life had I had any idea that it had that kind of thematic to it. Like I just saw kind of cool monsters, and that was about it. I didn't.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't realize
That's
it was monsters.
wild.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, obviously, like Fabs, like you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that might have been something you may have picked up on.
So
but-
the funny thing is, if I was to say my favorite card artwork is actually Dark Lord Morningstar, and the whole Dark Lord archetype as well. Funnily enough, is again
It
based
does
on
look sweet.
It's all based on Judeo-Christian mythology as well. So funnily enough, that was where I was going, but I had no idea it was a similar thing in Crystal Beasts. And well, look, full disclosure, guys, it actually took me several years to actually find out that the Rainbow Dragons were part of the Crystal Beast archetype. I actually had no idea. Like, I was like, yeah, I don't know. I just saw some cool dragons. I saw some Crystal Beasts. I had no idea they were connected until one day. I think I saw someone playing on Edo Pro. I was like, why is he playing this random card? Did some more investigations. Like, oh, they're related. Yeah,
That's funny.
Yeah, I had no idea at all. But,
Yeah,
Dan, what about you?
Morningstar is supposed to be
artwork.
Lucifer, right?
Yeah, Morningstar's supposed to be Lucifer, and then you've got the actual one as well. You've got the first Dark Lord, which is supposed to be him, like in his powered up version, and then you've also got kind of Solemn, which is God, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah. But Dan, what would your favorite card artwork be, bro?
So I feel like I'm gonna get cussed out for this, you know. Like I'm not even gonna front, because like I'd have to go with like just because it's one of my favorite cards. I'd have to go with Alistair the Invoker's like alternative art. You know, the art that's in Mask Maximum
Do you
Gold.
mean the one
Let's
that's in the
go.
best rarity gold? Why would you get hated on for that?
No, I was
Non-ironically, I do love the Max Gold rarity.
Oh, I wasn't being ironic. These guys will tell you I love gold rare. That's to me the best.
Let's
rarity.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like Fabs is
Unfortunately,
like our resident like gold rare lover. Like I'm a huge fan of common cards. Nay, I don't think you have a favorite rarity. I could be wrong.
I will splash on pretty much if I can get it in.
I was gonna say Nate is defo ulti.
Yeah, to be fair. But going back to what I was saying about like Invoke's just one of my favorite archetypes of all time. Like I love the idea that it's just Alistair. Like obviously it's got links to. I can't think of his name now. Yeah. All that stuff. Like I don't. I make a full disclaimer. You know, I don't follow any of that. You know, we don't roll with that paganism here. But I just think it's like a super dope artwork, and like it's just it's a really good, cool play style. And yeah, he just in his original artwork is a bit cringe. I'm not gonna lie. So his alternative one is pretty based, I think.
That's
Anyway,
They did him
interesting, you know,
justice.
though, because I'd say most people hate on his most people hate on the alternate, obviously, as opposed to the original. But yeah, I'm again, like I said, I'm fully with you. I think the original sucks compared to the alternate.
yeah, I think other than that, one that I've like really been digging recently, and it is a fairly new one, is I'd actually have to go with Kashtira Fenrir.
Ooh.
Just because like the Kashtiras, like they really remind me of. I know Nathan's just going to cuss me out again for being like a basic weeb, but I don't know if any of you guys have watched Neon Genesis Evangelion. Like the Kashtiras just kind of all remind me of the Eva units, and like it's just something about that like that marries up. That's just really cool, and like Fenrir's just got like look at him, man. He's just fucking dope. So
Fenrir's got some raw artwork.
I feel like Unicorn is. I can't lie. I feel like Unicorn looks really epic. I feel like Unicorn with the wings and stuff, like it looks really, really cool.
All of them do.
They do all look like the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
theme of Kashtira, and I like the color scheme. Like I don't know, maybe it's just me, but do we have any archetypes that are like that really kind of bright red color? Because I feel like it just really hits well with them. Like yeah, I feel like it's just a really good color scheme in general for the archetype.
I was gonna say
Volcanics,
fire,
I guess.
Then that's orange.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like all the fire ones are like orange, so I wouldn't really say red. That's why I think the Kashtiras look really good with that color scheme. Even the XYZs both look amazing because black and red is such a strong combo. Like in terms of a color
It's
scheme.
fun. It's like it reminds me, like the Kashtira cards reminds me of one Common Rider and two they look a little bit like, what is it? They look a little bit like Gurren Lagann color scheme almost. If it,
Yeah, I see that actually. I see that.
yeah, they all remind me of a little bit of like the mecha slash robots from that show. But
Yeah. So what about you? What about you, Nathan? What's your favorite one?
so if we're going from like, there are two artworks that I really enjoyed from like back in the day because I really liked I liked the Destiny hero cards quite a lot because I liked the hero archetype a lot when I was growing up because obviously Jaden, amazing character, bubbly energy, all this kind of thing, and his Dex heroes, that's so sick. And then like no one really liked Aster a little like too much during the show, but I think
I
he was
thought
a
Asta was
really-
cool.
I thought he was a really cool character. He had a good flushed out story arc, and I did like the Destiny hero cards quite a bit. And it was when Destiny and Dragoon came out, and I really liked that card artwork a lot, mainly because it was like the two boss monsters of the Destiny heroes coming together in the fusion. So that was one of them. I think my favorite artwork from the older cards was definitely, and shout out to all the Crystal Beast fans and such. But it would definitely be Rainbow Neos. I think
Ooh,
Let's go.
Yeah, that's a
Let's-
cool one.
on that episode where Jaden finally bought it out at the end of season 3, and I saw that card for like the first time, I was like, I love this card so much, and it holds like so much sentimental value to me as well because it's like the combination of Jaden's favorite monster and Jesse's favorite monster, like the bond of friendship and all this kind of thing. It was so nice, and it was one of the first ghost rares that I actually pulled as well, which
Oh wow.
held so
Wow,
much
that's
value.
sweet.
And then
What a core memory.
it's so sick as well because I think back to that, and it's just something that when you look back on memories from that GX era, and like obviously it's some people's childhood as well. So when you have like memories to fall back on and stuff like that, it just makes it so much more like sentimental and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just really makes it hit different, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And then there's obviously shout out to like the more modern artworks as well. I think obviously I'm a big fan of Despia, so I've got to say
Yeah, Despia.
Mirror Jade, like stuff like that as well. I do
The
like
artwork of that
Despia
whole
artwork.
lore, to be honest, is
so insane. Even what's
gorgeous.
what's his name? Aluba. Even Aluba, like it just looks epic. Like
Yeah.
all of the Despia cards look so good. And what
Yeah.
again, what I really like about I like cards where it's like the theme across it is like consistently with like one color. So again, it's that kind of that black red thematic. It just looks really good, and they all just look
Yeah.
like they all really fit the idea of like these kind of like depraved, crazy monsters and stuff. Is I think Despia is another really cool one.
Yeah, it's also
Quarion, whatever the Despia fusion that's like Quarion that
Quartus.
makes everyone
Quartus.
yeah, Quartus, yeah.
yeah.
He looks a little janky. He's just like, I don't know how his neck bends that way.
He looks like a tree, man. That's pretty much it. He just looks like
Some cards, I just look at them and I'm like, what is going on? Like, you look at like Lord of the Heavenly Prison, Psychic and Punisher, it's just giving me a headache trying to figure out what this is.
Yeah, I still can't figure out what Lord of the Heavenly Prison is trying to do. Like that card, I have
Yo,
no
say that
idea.
again, sorry,
Hey,
Fabs?
yeah.
Lord of the Heavenly Prison, I still can't figure out what that card like. I know there's a hand there's some spikes. I don't know what the heck that card is supposed to be because it looks so strange. Like,
Isn't it meant to be like what's inside Nibiru? Or
oh,
some-
really?
Oh.
I'm
I
sure that's.
think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's the
I think that's what I've
primal
heard.
being.
Don't quote me. r/Yu-Gi-Oh. But
Is this the primal being? Is this the final form?
the final form in it, yeah. Yeah, but another artwork I have to shout out, to be fair, is that alternative art of Cyber Dragon, like in the ulti rare. That looks gorgeous, man.
That's a good one.
Beautiful looking card. So Neshi, going back to a little bit to your personal journey, obviously you're someone who's come up like in the creator space. I think it's safe to say you've carved out like quite a good little niche for yourself, and you've got a really dedicated fan base. Are there any particular tips or any advice or anything that you'd want to say to anyone out there who's in a sort of similar position to yourself was when you were starting out, or anyone even who's in a similar position to yourself right now, who's looking at trying to get a little bit more on that kind of YouTube grind, or even just like a player grind, to be honest? Is there anything in particular that you'd want to you'd want to say about that, or?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm going to sound like a broken record with some of these tips on content creation because a lot of it is really just consistency and like keeping up with uploads. I think uploading to YouTube, if you're trying to stream on Twitch exclusively, I think you can't grow on Twitch without growing on YouTube. You know, YouTube,
100%
everyone
agree.
can look at your videos all the time. Whereas Twitch, you know, you're only live when you're live. You know, on YouTube, you can grow in your sleep, that kind of thing. But with growing on YouTube, it really is just like finding your own niche and what, you know, you think you could bring to the table. The Yu-Gi-Oh community is so saturated with, you know, everyone doing deck profiles, replays. You know, you need to do something to stand out. You know, what makes people want to subscribe to you? And for me, I decided, you know, I'll just bring Crystal Beast exclusively to the table. All my videos are all Crystal Beast related. I've never had another deck profile of a different deck on my channel. And that's just because, you know, I might do a decent job at doing a deck profile, but it's like, why would anyone come to my channel to watch a Crusadia deck profile? That kind of thing.
I
So
think
it's like
that's,
that. That's kind of my mindset.
I think that's a good point because I know it's something that you've said, Fabs, and it's something that we've talked about on Sanctum Squad before. Is like if you see like a particular take for example the Shizu Tears, there's so many different profiles out there. It's like you can do one, but
Yeah.
I don't want to say I don't want to say what's the point, but like what about it are you gonna do that's gonna make it different? If you get what I mean, like for me,
Exactly.
I think if we're like in Sanctum Squad, like when me and Jake have talked about making profiles, like we've said, okay, like what is it that's going to make this stand out differently? And like going in from a Sanctum Squad as an outsider, because I was a fan before joining the channel. That was one of the things I really liked about Jake's builds and Liam's builds was that it was always something different to what else was generally out there, and it's something that obviously Nesh, I know you've only done Crystal Beast yourself, but you know, it's definitely every single profile that I've seen from you has been, you know, A, really informative, and B, like super innovative as well.
Thank you.
Like I imagine there's a lot of people out there who would have just written Crystal Beast off as just like another anime archetype, but like you look at it and it's like, okay, there's actually like stuff that they can do. Like take the Tri Brigade build that you did, for example. Like I was messing around with that earlier. Like it's super fun. Maybe it's not as good as it used to be with the banning of Verte and such like, but I mean,
it is what
who
it
would have
is.
thought to combine those two archetypes? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really sweet. And exactly. And you can really think about you can add in your own little takes for the meta. I'm trying to think of an example. You can talk about very generic stuff in the meta, like talk about different techs you could play to beat the meta in your own like unique profile. So you can sneak some of that regular normie stuff in there. Like sometimes I like to call it normie, like mainstream kind of stuff in there in your unique video. You know what I mean? But I do want to answer that second part to the question about becoming a better player. I kind of touched on already on, you know, connecting with your community, connecting with your people at locals. I think those are the biggest things. But what really helped me specifically with being better at my rogue deck, I forgot to mention this earlier, but you need to play at least one format with a meta deck. You know, there was a season with Sky Striker True Draco, actually. I took that to a pro play tour, and I didn't play Crystal Beast at all. I actually
we have that
sided.
on record. We have that on record. Neshi played Sky Striker.
Yeah, Sky Striker True Draco, so a little bit more based for each side. I did side one copy of Sapphire Pegasus. I did put one Pegasus in my side deck, you know, just because I have to, right?
Any targets?
And I did side it in. No targets. Just one Pegasus, no targets.
You're wild, dude. You're wild. But sorry,
unless someone goes to like activate an effect to tribute it, then it could place itself from the graveyard to the spell traps. Or no, I can't even activate it with no targets, so it wouldn't even matter. But I played that. I think it's really important to play a meta deck just so you know what you're missing out on, and just so you know this rogue deck is really what you want to do. Because I think it takes a certain kind of person to play a rogue deck. You know, if you want to win, if that's your main goal, definitely play a meta deck. Absolutely no shame in playing a meta deck. I think people there's like I don't know. There's an unseen kind of there's kind of a shame that people bring up upon themselves if they play a meta deck like they're a sheep or whatever. I don't believe that at all. If you want to win, play a meta deck. There's no shame in that. But if you want to play your favorite deck or play a unique deck, then you have to work a little harder. But I think that is like winning with your
I think
favorite
it
deck.
all depends on like
That's a
what you want
different
to get out
joy.
of the game, I suppose.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just taking a look at yourself and looking at what you want to get out of the game. And if you do want to play a rogue deck, I highly suggest playing a meta deck just so you see both ends of the spectrum. And I really learned a lot from playing Sky Striker, True Draco, and playing like an actual deck. And stuff that I would never have learned otherwise because you really have to understand the power level and play the meta decks yourself just so you know what you're really up against and what you're sacrificing.
I
No,
think,
that's
yeah, that's a really good insight. I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Sorry, just before we move on to the next topic, I understand we have spoken quite a little bit about Crystal Beasts and stuff. Obviously, we'd be silly to think that we wouldn't. But I do have some questions from the Crystal Beast Facebook group for you, Neshi. If you want to go through a couple of those.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Okay, so one of the questions is, what do you think the number one golden rule is when it comes to playing Crystal Beasts? I like the little pun there that they put in.
So, gosh, the number one golden rule to playing Crystal Beasts. Uh, that's a good question. I like crystallizing my Pegasus in front of back row, crystallizing my Crystal Beast just in front of back row that could be imperm. That's not like a number one golden rule. I don't know what it would be. Like, always stay crystal base. That's what I'm gonna say is my number one
It's a
golden
state of
rule.
mind. It's a state of mind.
Yeah, it's a state of mind, 100%.
That's a good point about the back row, though, to be fair. I like that. I like that. The second question I have is from someone who's saying, we touched on this a little bit earlier, to be fair, just asking how you think the deck will work going into the Photon Hypernova format. Obviously, it's a really strong rogue pick at this moment in time, but we are about to go under a format change in theory. So
Yeah.
I guess if there's anything different, like you think that the deck would have to do going forward, obviously you mentioned about siding shifter and things like that, but
Yeah, side shifter and then play 3 goods because goods is essentially 3 terraforming and you get a free Sapphire Pegasus out of it or the other way around, so you still have access to Necro Valley and you play 1 Necro Valley, 1 Paraisos and then the Fenrir's and then Risen Heart, but that's going to be like a little engine that we get to play, a little upgrade. So we can actually do cool Kashtira things and, all of the anti-meta stuff. What's funny is all the anti-meta stuff that Kashtira plays, we can actually play around. So defissure, that doesn't matter because our crystal beasts go to the back row. The thing I am a little bit more worried about is macro because we can't conclave under macro. Conclave has to send itself to grave, but I don't think Kashtira is really playing macro because you have to set it first. So
seems a bit
I don't know if
greedy. I
I've-
think Macro does.
yeah, I don't think I've seen any builds that play that, but it's really the way I see Kashtira, it's like the best anti-meta deck. So it's like if we can play under their anti-meta cards, then we still have a good shot. I've only played against, full disclosure, I've never played against the full
Full power
what is it?
Kashtira.
Yeah, full power Kashtira yet. I've only played against, pre-Fi Kashtira. So it's 100% going to be a different beast. So I'm not the best source to ask about this, but I think we definitely have a good shot at being one of the best rogue decks, rogue options. And, I wasn't too confident about Ishizu tier format either once the Ishizu cards came out, but it turns out we're just playing the same deck and getting the same results. So, it's pretty cool. We still eat tier for breakfast.
Pretty. It's pretty cool, man. I like that insight that you had going into that. Specifically, the interaction with the field spell. Like, that's fucking hell, man. Like, I feel like between this and like the podcast that we did with Ben as well, I feel like we're just absorbing so much knowledge recently. And
Literally.
it's actually so sick. One final question I had. It's kind of like a conglomerate of questions, because I had a lot of people asking about like new support for the Crystal Beast and stuff. Obviously, you've made videos talking about Golden Rule and things like that. Is there anything like coming out to support for Crystal Beast that I guess like we wouldn't have thought about? Obviously, you mentioned the Pariasis. I know that Fallen of Albaz has the fusion that requires a tri-type, so that there's potential synergy there, things like that. Just any, but I think people just want to know the goo in it. I'm not going to lie. That's the kind of what I'm kind of gathering from this. And obviously, I'm expecting you to spill the goo, but
yeah, the only other goo I've got for you is da-da-da, game on, game on.
just get your game on and have fun in it.
Yeah, no, Duelist Academy or Duel Academy, the field spell. It's coming out in March. So
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it?
Oh, okay. I was completely on the different end of the spectrum there. I thought you were just being like, nah, the goo is to have fun in it, and I was like, that's dope.
I can't believe you remember that
Yeah.
card. I remember when it was announced. I was so baffled. I was like, "What the heck are they even doing?"
It's got loads of different effects in it, isn't it? Meant to support all the different Crystal Beast, not Crystal Beast, fucking GX archetypes.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
Beast, Pyro, I don't know the other one, but with Beast and Pyro decks, so this is also volcanic support. Every time you flip a trap card while you have that type of monster, then you get to pop a card on the field. So we
That's
just
pretty
have the Duelist Academy or Duel Academy. We flip up Conclave during opponent's turn, and then on res, we just pop a card. So that's kind of cool. It's not like, it's not the
interesting,
most
definitely.
warping card, but it's cool, and that's what's on the horizon. So I'm excited. It's on theme.
Sick, man. It's sick. That's
Finally,
cool.
once in a blue moon, we finally have volcanic support.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see if Konami ever does actually support volcanics. I'm still
Oh,
hesitant on
God.
it. I think they've forgotten about that deck. I can't lie. I don't see it coming.
Maybe. But
Yeah.
then people have started sending Scattershot and tier decks, so you never know.
That would be the most
No,
hilarious thing ever if Konami goes on to now hit Scattershot on the next ban list. They're like, you know what, tier is too strong. Let's hit Scattershot.
Yeah, you know,
Pouring
Pain
out from my
96.
man Pain.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, Pain will be. He'll be feeling some different kinds of emotions if that happens.
No, it would be so weird because they'll be like, "Oh, tier's too powerful." You know what? Let's put talents to 1.
I can see that being a hit, you know, unironically.
No,
I can see
sorry.
talents being a hit. to one being a
Really,
hit.
I feel like Talents is balanced. You know, I feel like it's. I guess, and finally, this kind of leads into the next question that I was going to have, which is, what do we think about power creep in the game at the moment? Like, and especially with regards to generic spell. I don't know if generic's the right word. Non-archetypal spells and traps like talents, and then the new talents coming out. What do we think, guys? Do you think do we think it's at a safe place? Do we think it's keeping up with the meta? Do we think it's getting too much of a problem?
I don't think it's in a safe place at the moment, mainly because of the fact of talking about like non-archetype spells, but also in archetypes in general. I remember the power creep when we came from Punk Brave format, like Sword Soul, Despia, that format, to go straight into Power of the Elements, which was a huge power creep in itself. When you go from like Brand Infusion was broken in itself, mainly because of the fact it was just Shadow Fusion on steroids. And then you go to Tyr being able to fuse from the graveyard and not being able to stop, and also being able to fuse on your opponent's grave, basically doing what Flunder was doing around about a format ago, but still keeping up and having ways to interact on your opponent's turn, as well as Sprite setting up an end board that was, unless you saw those breakable cards like Dark Ruler No More and Talents, it was very difficult to break that board without any siding. So power creep at the moment is a bit of an odd one in general. And another obvious reference to power creeping as well is the Pancratops Fenrir argument. Like, Pancratops got limited to 1 in, I'd say,
2020, wasn't it? Start of 2020.
Start of 2020. And then we just get Fenrir, which is summonable on your first turn, searches out another copy of itself, banishes face down when your opponent attacks or activates a card effect. Like,
It is an insane card.
Yeah. But do you know what?
Truly.
I don't know if we all remember, but you know, so when Konami banned Pancratops, they also banned Mind Control and Instant Fusion. And I had this theory since they did it. I think the real reason they banned those cards is because they were cheap. That's why. They were cheap staples that everyone was using in their side deck, and they wanted to sell Lightning Storm that was coming out later on. Because if you
I
remember,
don't disagree.
in that format, everyone, I remember, because that was awesome. That was the kind of Sky Striker Orcus format. Everyone was playing Mind Control, Pancratops, Instant Fusion in their side decks. And it's like you'd summon out a Millennium Eyes, or you'd just Mind Control Pancratops and stuff. And then they're like, oh, you know what? These cards are really broken, even though they actually weren't that broken. Like, they were generic, but they weren't that broken. But I think
No,
Konami doesn't like cheap cards, and they don't like cards that everyone uses. And I think that's the real
Yeah,
reason why
they
hate
weren't necessarily broken, but they were all included in Deck Devastate.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely all solid options.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, you go on, Dan.
No, I was just gonna say, like, power creep is like definitely a weird one. And going back to triple tactics tasking, I really don't know how I feel about that spell. I think it'll be the proofs in the pudding. Like, will it see play? It'll see play, but like everyone said that Ultimate Slayer was going to be broken, and Ultimate Slayer is a good card. Don't get it twisted. But I ain't seen play.
I also find it so weird how I feel like, and that's why I kind of feel I'm okay with the power creep, because Ultimate Slayer is actually an incredible card. They even printed like OP targets for it as well, but
For sure.
we're just at the stage in the game where like trading 1 for 1 and even sometimes 1 for 2 is just not enough. And it's just like, that's the problem with Ultimate Slayer. It's like you shuffle back their Kit Kalos or Collider or whatever, and they just bring out another one. Or is it Rue, Kalos, and Collider are the ones like interactions, and they just bring out another one. Yeah, definitely. I think it's a bit of an issue, but then that's why I really do like the triple tactics tasking one, because I like the idea of a going second card that can be either a starter or an extent or a board breaker. I think giving that option to you on your turn if your opponent is deciding to play your turn, I think it's a really nice option that Konami is giving to people.
I think it'll be better going second than going first, unless going first you're playing like those broken one of like sort of traps. Does it search continuous traps? I'm sure it's normal spell or traps. I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it's normal.
I think it's just normal.
It is normal.
And then if you set the card, you can't use it that turn.
Yeah.
But the idea was, since you can't do other types of cards, you can just do normal cards. The idea was like you could set terraforming with Search's Mystic Mine, and so that's the workaround.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, I think it'll be better because I assume like the idea of it from a design point was you do it going second and search triple tack. You search triple tack and then and then you just get the triple tack effects. I don't know. It's definitely an interesting card, and I think it's something that I'll be picking up.
100%.
Also, in terms of like going back to Ultimate Slayer a little bit, has anyone seen like that there are just random cards that are just going up and up and up in price? Like, I know this has always been the way, but I was talking with a friend about this earlier. Lifeless Leafish, that common that was worth like 9p. It's getting to like £3-4 now, like just because of Goatee, which is not even like a meta deck. And then you have stuff like Kirikara Div Incarnate, which was it was, mate, you could probably get a playset for maybe like between £25 and £30, and now they're pushing like 60 because it's heralded to be like really big against Kastira. So like, how much do we think in terms of, how much in terms of like hype versus actual how good the card is do you think plays into it when it comes to the market?
I think with Galaxy specifically, it's a fan favorite. It's a really popular anime deck. I mean, it came in second place in the Creative Card contest from 2020. I think that might be the reason behind that, and it's always getting support like every single year. My buddy plays Galaxy, and every one of us gets mad at him.
Oh no, sorry, I meant Oh, sorry, you were talking about Galaxy. My bad.
Oh yeah, Galaxy Photon, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were misheard. Sorry, carry on.
No, yeah, that was it. I was just kind of explaining the Galaxy spike because I know that's really weird.
Has that been spiking as well?
Yeah, that's been spiking.
Are the Galaxy cards actually good? I'll be honest, I didn't bother investigating. Are they worth playing, or is it still going to be unviable like it was before?
They have random really good cards.
Yeah, you know what? All they need is some way to activate Tachyon Transmigration, and it becomes a great deck, because that is like one of the most broken counter traps ever. It's just like impossible for them to activate because they need Tachyon on board, and then they need a way to search it as well.
And it's unsearchable. Yeah. But it's got the most amazing busted tools in the game. But for some reason, it's just like not there yet. I don't know why.
I'm actually going to read it out.
It needs too many cards.
I'm going to read it out just in case people don't know what this card does. So it's a counter trap, and it goes: if you control a Galaxy-Eyes monster, activate its Chain Link 2 or higher. Negate the activations of your opponent's spell or trap cards and monster effects activated before this card in the chain. And if you do, shuffle the negated cards on the field into the deck. Then, to make it even more cracked, If you control a Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon monster, you can activate this card from hand. Like, this card is insane. But
It's just so dumb.
yeah.
All it needs is like a searcher. That's the only thing. I think that's what the deck was missing as well as the ability to like play through interactions.
It's basically because it's one of those archetypes where they've given it two random names, kind of with Gishki and Aquamirror. It's a similar thing where Tachyon, and then you've got Photon, and then you've got Galaxy, and they're all just different names. And it just creates a problem. But yeah, I can't lie. If that card was searchable, I could see myself playing 3 of it, man. Like I don't know how you plan to beat my counter trap from the hand. That's just
that card's fucking nuts. But it's in Galaxy Eyes. It's like Worms, isn't it? And like all these random archetypes that have broken cards, but the archetype is just not there.
Yeah,
I like the archetype from the anime because that was quite cool. Like you could literally just go, oh, what was it? Oh, what was the last one? I can't remember.
Is it the Neo Galaxy S Photon Dragon that you get with the 7th?
It was the one after that. Galaxy Eyes Prime Photon Dragon. It was like gains the attack of every monster on the field and can attack multiple times and like halves them or something like that. Yeah. But it only works if you have Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon as a material. Yeah. It's something weird like that.
They all have like pretty awesome battle effects, and they actually do have great artwork. I'll actually bring back as well. Like all of the Galaxy Eyes are quite cool cards, and also because XYZ is just a great thematic. But guys, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do the best section, the best section of the entire show, and it's going to be the Am I the Arsehole section. So,
oh god,
so just as a quick information, this subreddit, it's a subreddit called Am I the Arsehole on Reddit, and the idea is someone will tell a story about something that happened, and it's we vote on whether we think they're an arsehole or not. So I'm going to read this one because I think it's quite a controversial one, and I feel like might get a couple of different opinions. So it reads, am I the asshole for not asking my girlfriend's father for permission to marry her? So I feel like the normal situation I read about is the opposite situation, but I personally feel I'm in the right here. I've been dating my girlfriend for 4 years now, and all things have been pretty good. We both don't see eye to eye politically on many things with her father, but we still visit him and her mother fairly frequently around the holidays, and he's friendly enough not to bring up politics around the both of us because we don't agree. I've talked about proposing to my girlfriend over the past couple months. I'm really sorry. I'm going to quickly interrupt telling this story and then I'm going to start again. This person is horrible at telling stories. There's a bunch of irrelevant information. As I was reading, I was just thinking, how is this relevant to the rest of the story? But I'm going to start again from the relevant part. So, I've talked about proposing to my girlfriend over the past couple months and what she wants. And she mentioned that she wants me to ask her dad for permission. I was taken aback by this, as it isn't a normal thing a girlfriend would say. So I asked why. She said because it's something he would like me to do. Her sister's husband did it, and some wedding funding from him would likely be contingent on me doing this. I came back with that I wouldn't be asking another person for permission to marry her. It's an extremely outdated tradition for one, and I'm a 30-year-old person. I can do what I want to do with someone I love. I don't need anyone else's permission. She got mad and said I just needed to do it because it's a small thing to ask for, and she wants some of the money to have a few more things at our wedding that we won't be able to afford without it. I'm continuing to stand my ground about not asking for this. Am I the arsehole? So, what do we think, guys?
Man, this is interesting for me to talk about because I got married a couple months ago, and I did ask.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it. But I did ask the father for permission, and here's why. Mm-hmm. It's a respect thing. It's not about you. You know, I know he was saying like he's a 30-year-old man, you know, he shouldn't have to ask for permission for this. I get that, you know, you're an adult, you can do what you want. But when you get married, you have to take into account the other person. You know, it's another person you're dealing with here. And that you have to do her family the respect and honor by asking the father. You know, he was that's his little girl. That kind of thing.
So I'm going to enter this on the flip side of the coin. Not unlike Neshi, I got married recently, and I didn't ask my wife's father for permission. Partly due to because the fact my wife's father is not in my wife's life, but I think if he was, it wouldn't have been my prerogative to ask him for permission unless I was explicitly asked to, because I do believe that humans aren't property to be given away, but I also believe that you should respect, especially when you're going to be starting a family with someone and their family is going to be by proxy become your family. I think there is a degree where you have to respect those wishes. I don't think he's an arsehole, but then I don't think he's not an arsehole. It seems kind of like he's just standing his ground for like a 5 minute conversation. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think he's being a jerk or anything, but I do think that it's just more of a pride thing, It's
I
just
don't know.
like
It's
get
that is a
over
diff-
yourself.
Yeah, so I'll say I'd say I fall more on Neshi's side of this, where, but okay, here's my opinion. I think that the fact that he doesn't want to ask for permission for me speaks to more of a immaturity and a kind of like a false, like, is this really the hill you want to die on kind of position. I feel like his wife has asked, or his to-be wife has said, I want this from you. I think that's the first thing that's important, because if she didn't ask for that and it was just the dad, then maybe I could see where his standpoint, but I still don't respect his standpoint in that case, because in my opinion, it's similar to what Neshi said, like, yes, she's her own person and such, but that's his daughter. Asking the dad's father, asking the bride's father for permission, partially is a property thing. I'm definitely not going to deny that, but it's also partially it's like that's his baby that he's been taking care of. It's like traditionally olden days, this is the girl that you've been taking care of and looking after for your whole life, and then this guy from anywhere has come to say, I'm going to take her into my house and I'm going to look after her. It's like, do I even trust you? Do I know you? It's like, so it's like I can understand why that kind of, some people have that, but I think the biggest thing for me is just that your wife has asked for it. She said that this means something to me. And one thing that I really didn't like that he said was that it's because he's not traditional. And I just didn't like that argument, because I feel like, so he said it's an extremely outdated tradition. And the reason why I didn't like him saying that is because people often say things like that, but it's like, I feel like they pick and choose what traditions they want to keep up with. I feel like you could just as easily argue that marriage is an extremely outdated tradition in the first place. You could say that, why don't you just get a civil partnership? Why don't you just do that and then just live together and be and cohabitate, as opposed to getting married in the first place? And I feel like if you're going to take a moral stand, if you're going to take a principled stand and say this is outdated, I don't want to do it, then go the whole way. I feel like pick an arbitrary place to stop for me. Just as it says to me that what you're basically saying is you think your desires are more important than what your wife's desires are, and this is someone you're asking to marry. So that's kind of where I stand. I think he's a little bit of an arsehole. I think she should grow up. That's what she wants. And again, it's like, what do you really lose? Like, it's not the dad asking.
Exactly. And the dad's in the picture. Like, I get with your case, Dan, the dad wasn't really in the picture. That's completely different. But in this case, like, the dad's there and she wants him to do this. It's like, I just don't think it's a debatable thing. I think it's a no-brainer.
Do you know what it is? It doesn't seem like there's a good enough reason not to do it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah. Sorry, Nate. What we've chatted amongst ourselves. What are you thinking about this?
To be honest, I do think that in this case he is a bit of an asshole, mainly because again, this fact has already been brought up, but the fact that she's asked him to ask her father if it's obviously okay to get his permission means that he is sort of.
It's clearly something that's important to her.
It's clearly something that. It's clearly like he is a model or a figure in her life that she has a lot of respect for, and that's why she's asking him for permission. Like, he's asking him to go and ask for permission and such, and him saying that obviously I don't believe in the tradition, I think it's far too outspoken. That's okay, but you
can kind of suck it up in it.
Yeah, we're in a society now where we're in a society now where you have to kind of respect everyone else's ideals and such, and even if they aren't your own, you still have to respect that people feel differently and people are going to be, different towards yourself and gonna.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, respect is 100% a two-way street, and I think if he's shown you respect to not bring up a topic which he knows is going to start an argument with you, then that shows that he has a degree of respect for you.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think of that part, because that was actually something that he said, that the dad won't bring up. He told the dad, don't bring up politics around me, essentially, and the dad won't do it. So that's actually a really good point.
Yeah. So to be fair, like
doesn't stop
thinking about it, like I'm not saying I disagree with him because I don't disagree with him in that it is a bit of an outdated tradition. But I also agree with what you're saying, Fabs. You could say, you know, you could argue the whole marriage is outdated. So I don't know. It's a sticky one. I think personally, you should just it's the old saying, innit? Happy wife, happy life.
Suck it
Yes,
up,
sir.
bro. So look, when you're in the house,
Wrap it up.
yeah,
Ship it.
When you're in the house with the wife and you're smashing his daughter, the dad's not there. You don't have to ask for the permission there. So it's like, I don't know why you're complaining now, bro. Like, what's one small question?
On that note, I think that's a perfect time to wrap it up there and some wise words from Fab. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to Neshi for coming on. It's been really great having you on the podcast. I hope to stay in touch. And were there any final words you had for us?
Always stay crystal base and eat your fruits and veggies. And I love this. Thank you guys for having me on. This is a real treat.
Of course, man. Anytime, you're always welcome. And again, thank you for everything that you've imparted on us today. Some real knowledge has been dropped, I think.
Oh, awesome. All right, later on, guys. Peace.
Peace.
Sarah.